Alright class, so today we're going to be doing the final exam review category 4. This is primarily quadratic and square root functions, equations, and inequalities, so we'll be doing a little bit of each in this video, so let's go ahead and move on. Um, this this category 4 here, like it says, we'll discuss writing the equation of a parabola given specific attributes, focus, directrix. We actually did that in the previous video. So like I said, I tried to make these last 3 categories just a little smaller than the first 3. That way you guys kind of like a jump ahead. We will be discussing transformations of quadratics. We will be solving roots of quadratics. We will be analyzing the transformations, and we'll check for extraneous solutions and solve quadratic inequalities. Actually, we'll do quadratic inequalities. We've already done that as well. But let's go ahead and get started. So this question says here, if f of x equals 2x squared minus 8x minus 24, then what is the value of h when f of x is written as f of x equals 2 times x minus h, all that squared plus k? So what's happening here is the skill is we are going from standard form, which this here is standard. Okay, so we're going from standard form to vertex form. Okay. And so what I've done here is I've given you all a little table. You'll see this on your slide too as well. But when we're writing this, we see it as f of x equals 2x squared minus 8x minus 24. And so we get our a here. A is equal to 2. B is equal to negative 8, and C is equal to negative 24. So if I'm looking for these values within the vertex form, what we see here that A is the same, like nothing really changes. But let me go ahead and write this out. Y equals A x minus h squared plus k. A is the same, and like they said here, it's 2, right? But h and k, this is like where we need to start finding like these values. And we can use like test points and all this stuff to find out these values here, or actually the vertex itself. But if I'm looking for that h, okay, we'll use this equation here, where it says that h equals negative b over 2a. And this is a skill that I want us to practice here. So we're going to take this negative, and my b value is negative 8 over 2 times a is 2. So negative times negative is positive, so we have a positive 8 over 2 times 2 is 4, and that equals 2. So my h value equals 2, so my answer here is D. So the main focus of this question, guys, is just to be sure that you're able to understand what standard form looks like, being able to identify your A, B, and C, and then using that A and B to determine your H value. Okay. So this here is your problem. You've got if f of x equals 3x squared minus 12x plus 3, then what is the value of h when f of x is written as f of x equals 3 times x minus h, all of that squared plus k? So all I want to know is what is h? So you need to make sure that you pull out the correct values, plug them in correctly, be careful with those negatives. You got this. Let's go ahead and move on. So this is a transformation question. It says the parent function f of x equals 1 over x undergoes the following transformations in order to produce g of x. So let's do these. And I'm going to take this one step at a time. I'm going to say f of x equals 1 over x, right? And this is a horizontal stretch of 2. If I have a horizontal stretch, okay, a horizontal stretch of 2, okay, and we have to be very careful. This does not mean it's a vertical stretch. It's a horizontal stretch. Okay, that means it's getting wider, which means we are multiplying by 1/2. Okay, remember, a horizontal stretch is the same thing as a vertical compression. So when I'm doing that, what happens here is we'd actually have 1x times 1/2, and that equals, okay, 1 over x. And you know what, we really should separate it. because right now it's going to make a little bit of a difference, which is the same thing as just 1 over 2 times x. And we'll use this here. Okay. Then it says that we're going to have a translation of 3 units down. So if we have 3 units down, that means we're subtracting 3 on the outside. So minus 3. Okay. And then the last part here says the translation of 4 units to the right. So if I'm going 4 units to the right, we do know that with this x, we'd actually have an x x minus 4. So this would equal 1 over 2 times x minus 4 minus 3. And this would be our transformation. So when I'm looking at this here, looking at our answer choices, well, they all have the minus 3s, so that doesn't help. Okay. We've got 2 over x minus a. No, that doesn't work. 1 over 2x minus 4. Well, if we distribute the 2, yeah, but remember we have to distribute to both factors. So if we were to distribute this, this would actually end up being 1 over 2 times, 1 over 2 times 2x minus 8, all of that minus 3. So that means that no, B is no good. C is also no good, so our answer choice has to be D. And what's really being pushed here is that horizontal stretch. I know we always talk about vertical, 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 but this one is a horizontal stretch, which is the same thing, okay, as a vertical compression. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to yours. So we have the same thing happening here. We have 1 over x, but you have a horizontal stretch of 3, so you're not multiplying by 3, you're going to be multiplying by 1/3. A translation of 4 units up, and a translation of 2 units to the left. Follow the same steps as I did in the slide before, and then I'll get you guys going through this. If you have any questions, send me a message on Teams. Okay, so now let's look at this one here. Same skills, except now instead of dealing with a rational function, we're going to look at this radical one. So we're going to have the square root of x. And we're doing a vertical stretch of 6. So this is really just a times 6. So we'd have a 6 square root of x. Okay, this was not a tricksy one like that. The other one before, it's not a horizontal, it's a vertical stretch. A reflection about the x-axis. So a reflection about the x-axis, just so you can visualize this here, is really what we're having is originally we'd have this, but the reflection about this x-axis means that we are now being flipped over here, which means that this now becomes negative. Okay, this negative causes a reflection about the x-axis, so this would be just a times negative value. And then we have a reflection of 3 units down, so that would be a minus 3. That doesn't change. And then, okay, it says a reflection about the y-axis. So, whoa, hold on. What does that look like? So if we had some graph, and we already know that we were like reflected down here, and then we're going to be reflected about this y-axis. Well, our x value is what's changing here, which means that we have to have a negative x. So what happens here is we have a negative 6 square root of negative x minus 3. And this is what's happening here. Okay. So when we look at the answer choices, well, we have a minus 3. They all have minus 3, so it doesn't help. And then a negative 6 square root of negative x, a negative 6 square root. Nope, this is no good. He's missing the negative. This 6 is positive. That's no good. This has a fraction. Nope. Negative 3 minus 6 square root of negative x. This is the guy. Okay. So again, this part, the last one, the reflection about the y-axis, this is the one that we need to be careful with, and it's just causing that reflection within that radical. So to cause that reflection, we have to understand the negative value. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. You guys have the same setup. It is a radical of x. we will have a vertical stretch of 3, a reflection about the x-axis, a translation of 4 units up, and a reflection about the y-axis. Follow the same steps, get that practice going in there, and you guys should be set. If you have any questions, send me a message on Teams. Alright, and so for this final problem that we're going to be doing together, it says which values make up the equation x squared of x makes, okay, for the equation of x squared plus 12x plus 4 equals 0 true. So what we really have to do is we have to solve for the value of x. We're looking for the roots. Now, you could plug this into Desmos and you could get those values. Now you're not going to get really nice values. You can already see here we're going to get like some freaky decimals, so you're going to have to practice through this. What I also want us to do is I want us to practice using the quadratic equation, where we understand here that our a value, right, our a, our b, and our c, so we would say a equals 1, b equals 12, and c equals 4. How do we use this equation? Like I said, you could use Desmos, but I would want to make sure that we practice this as well. So when we're doing this here, we're going to set up x equals negative, and our b value is 12, plus or minus the square root of 12 squared minus 4 times 1 times 4. And we're going to take all of that and we're going to divide it by 2 times a, and a is just 1. So now we just need to start simplifying this out. We'll get x equals negative 12 plus or minus the square root of 144, because 12 squared is 144, minus negative 4 times 4 is negative 16 times 1. It still stays as negative 16. Okay, all of that over 2. Then we'd have x equals negative 12 plus or minus the square root. So 144 minus 16 is 128 over 2. Okay, so we already see this happening with this negative 12, but it's going to be divided by 2, so we want to be careful that we don't mess this up too much. And then we do need to do a little bit of factoring here with this 128. Okay. And so what we're going to want to make sure that we do here is we can always start off with like taking that 128 and seeing, can we divide that by 2? Alright, and so we're able to divide that by 2, and what we end up getting is we get x equals negative 12 plus or minus the square root of 64 times 2. And this is nice because the square root of 64 we know is 8. All of this is divisible by 2. So then we'd get x equals negative 12 plus or minus the square root of 64 is 8 square root of 2, because that stays there. All of that divided by 2. And our last bit of factoring is we can now do negative 12 divided by 2 is negative 6 plus or minus 8 divided by 2 is 4 square root of 2, and this is our answer here, which happens to be B. So what you could have also done is you could have gone into Desmos and like looked for all the roots and then checked all your answers, but I want to make sure that we practice the math skills as well. Okay. So now you have your problem here. By all means, you can get those root values using Desmos. I would prefer that you practice using the quadratic equation as well. At any point you have any questions or concerns, let me know. Send me a message on Teams, or just come off mute in class. That'll help too. Okay, you guys have a great day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.